Homicide, death by is the leading cause of death among black males and females ages 15 to 34. The black population, which is only 12% of the nation, accounts for 44% of all murder victims. This new gangster subculture has also invaded the entertainment industry in a big way, with a huge amount of vulgarity and sexism. The operative word here, however, is some. We must be careful to avoid the normal decline into stereotypes about all black people. And speaking of stereotypes, why is so many black women in new TV commercials and sitcoms mimic the old Aunt Jemima facial look? When they speak, they 1, buck their eyes, and 2, drop their chins on a frowned, angry face. Or they buck their eyes and drop their chins simultaneously over an angry face. What's going on? Is this a symptom of a new reality, a lifestyle, literally ugly and angry, and outside the bounds of decency? I'm Tony Brown. In a moment, are black women endangered? Our first guest is Ms. Brenda Verner. Ms. Verner is author of Africana Womanism. Our next guest is Ms. Georgia GOSLEE. Ms. GOSLEE is an attorney and a motivational speaker. Our next guest is Ms. Linda BRISCOE. Ms. BRISCOE is president of the Ohio Women's Health Project. I want to, here in Cincinnati, I want people to know where we are in the country, because Ms. GOSLEE, I met you at the Black Expo in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And you were holding a seminar with regard to black women, and you and I and a whole bunch of us solved all the problems of the world in the cafeteria.
Sure did.
So I want you to share much of that wisdom. I was so impressed with your fund of information. You heard what I said in the opening. Is there a sea change among black women? What's going on?
I think what's really going on in terms of a national, there's been a serious national moral decline in the fabric of our society. There is no way that we can really move forward in this country at this point until we go back to the fundamental basic, which is the family. Because of the serious moral decline in our nation, there's been a decline in the family, in the religious institutions. So you talk about, are black women in danger? I don't think we're endangered any more than the entire nation. This nation, if you focus upon black people, that's fine. We certainly have serious problems, but I think in the reality of it, the nation, and I don't think that any major country in this world has the audacity to confront us, and we may end up declining from within. So if we look at black women just as that singular group, no, I don't think we're in any more trouble than any other segment of the community, but I think the whole community as a nation, I think we're in trouble.
Where does this decline emanate? Where does it come from?
Well, it's hard to say where it starts. Obviously, the young kids, which we've been talking so much about, and I just feel so much sympathy and empathy for them. I look at the teenage mothers having children at 12 and 13 and 14 years old. By the time they're 26 years old, they've got another child 13 and 14 years old, and we see a cycle. And many of those youngsters, Tony, end up in prisons, end up being systemically denied the benefits and the opportunities, because there's always been this notion of rehabilitating. How do you rehabilitate somebody that's never been habilitated? And I think because, and I have been a professional woman for 20 years as a lawyer, as a television personality, as a motivational speaker, but I must say, what happened when the women of America left the home? Of course, we had to go into the marketplace because there was such a demand because of the increasing prices to live. But the children in this society, in many instances, not all, have really been abandoned. And I hate to say that, and when you don't have anybody in that home to take care, to love, and to nurture that child, it's all over. And we are now beginning to see the consequences of something that happened. And I know people can have a different attitude about that because you want women to have their own lives and destinies, but I'm sorry, somebody's got to take care of the children.
Ms. Verner, where does you, in your book, Africana Womanism, you very, very opinionated about the feminist movement and the role of black women in the feminist movement, or the absence of the role of black women in the feminist movement. Tell us about that, would you?
Well, first of all, I have good news. Black women are still in maintenance of their own minds, and we are still the strongest female mind on the planet. The rank and file black woman has rejected feminism because feminism is antithetical to Africana womanism. We are people who come out of African culture. We are in the diaspora. We are family oriented. We are connected to men. I'll say that again. We are connected to men, women, and children. And our identity comes out of that family, and our allegiance is to our culture. That is the essence of our thought mechanism. We are not gender oriented. We are not launching a battle of the sexes for promotion and high profile and money with our men. We are not about to try to release ourselves from motherhood through abortion and seeking careers as an antidote for bad relationships. What we need to understand is that we are being manipulated by a group of people who are able to deliver the messages out there and control what we talk about. We need to organize to defend the culture. It is under attack. It is under attack from within and from without, because feminists have raised up their own black feminist elite who seem to have the objective to rewrite black history from a feminist perspective. People are now referring to Harriet Tubman as a pre-feminist. They're calling Frederick Douglass a feminist. Do you understand the nature of this kind of revisionist history? It has an incredible impact upon what's happening to us today. Somehow, young black women, because they have seen this battle of the sexes their entire lives on television, believe that they have to launch war against men in order to be their own person. There's something absolutely wrong with that.
I want to ask you a question. Am I out of my tree when I suspect that I see a lot of young black women, the ones in the videos and the ones in this rap thing, who tend to be very masculine?
The defeminization of black women has been on the march ever since the concept of feminism. You see, historically, the stereotypic image of black women as being asexual as a mammy or ugly like a man. You see, so when you feed into this concept of feminism, which also promotes lesbianism, you have this new image of women. Remember, we used to have the jokes, your mother wears combat boots? Now they literally wear combat boots.
I'd like to go to Ms. BRISCOE. Ms. BRISCOE, being an expert in the area of the health of women, I know your plate is full, because I would say it's an emerging area, because for so long research even has not gone into diseases endemic to the female population. Where does the health in our community affect our progress or our lack of progress?
Well, I can tell you from one area that I'm working with over 20,000 residents in this one area. That's in this area, 98% of single women's head of household. It's a low-income area. And the toxic waste that they are living on have affected the health tremendously. And not only that, then we go to other areas when they have came up with this new contraceptive, new Norform plant, that they are paying young girls to use this device for 5 years with no studies on it at all.
Now explain to the audience what that NOR plant is.
It's a device that David Duke, when he was running for the candidacy, he had put out, and he had pushed for it to be, for Congress to accept it, in which they did. They started off in Arkansas, Clinton hometown. They are using it on young girls. It's a device they put underneath their skin that it would keep them from getting pregnant for 5 years. Now, there is no health studies on this device, and they are here in this city and other cities, and it's just well kept quiet. The women are definitely in danger, the black women.
I want to ask this question because you're with the grassroots. You're down there. You know what's going on. What is the psychological damage to a woman, a young woman in particular, who's just trapped No money, no man, no education, no materiality. You know, to help us understand that mindset. What's happening in her head?
Okay, the women that even live, and I can say this with, because that's what I really work at, and is in the public housing area, which we have 33 sites of public housing here in the city of Cincinnati. With the women's, that when it's nowhere to go, is no activities in the community, no kind of outlet. And agencies that's in the community get money, but they never get down to the women's. They keep their process going and their administration. So nothing never really happened in the community. They have the community women fighting for crumbs to even get programmed. So they are in a sad state of affairs because where do they go out? Where do they escape? There's no one there to help them, to show them that there is other routes, because everybody have forgot about the low income, low class, what they have said, and they call themselves a lot of names. They degrade themselves. They act accordingly to what they have heard on the news. And so what else? That's all they do. Yeah.
Ms. GOSLEE?
I was just going to add something to what Mrs. Verner said, that black women are still the strongest female mind in the country. And I was going to say that we're among the strongest minds, period, in the country. And I think that black women need to recognize that and not to be reluctant to admit that they're highly intelligent, that they're highly motivated, and that they're highly driven, and that they too want a piece of the rock and they want the brass ring, and that we should not be afraid to say that and to share that with others and to pursue our dreams like anybody else.
What about the role that black women do not have in the national leadership of the black community?
Well, I think one of the reasons that we primarily don't have a national role is because, like anything else, it is difficult to rise to a national position in this country unless you have some type of base that can somehow propel you, or unless, as you know, in many respects, it's who you know and how well you're connected. And so unless you are in a position where you find yourself in that kind of network situation, you can't really propel yourself. I look at people like Linda, and I shook her hand when I was talking to her backstage, because she's incredible. This woman dedicates her life to the struggle, and I admire that. And this is the type of person that needs to have her message, and this lady have her message spread all across the nation, because it's a very vital message that all of us need to hear.
But there's really no getting away from the fact that the national black leadership is a good old boys club.
There's no question about it. And it's very difficult, Tony, in the legal profession, in almost any profession that has been historically dominated by men. It's tough.
But
it's
you know
tough
what I would
getting
say
through.
to that? I didn't intend to say this, but I'll say it anyway. I noticed that Jesse Jackson had a better response to organized white women than he did black women when he was running for president. And it's because organized people get respect. And black women have to organize in order to get that respect. We have a twofold job. We need to defend this culture. We need to raise up a generation of women who are going to raise up a generation of women.
I agree. And it seems like almost whenever you're talking about blacks with blacks, it's like we can respect and admire anybody else except ourselves. So I would not be surprised that the organized white women would support Jesse Jackson. It's like a lot of the concerts. I was talking to Natalie Cole not so long ago, and she was saying she wants the black audience to come to her. Most of her audiences are white, and she wants to, so you can't, I'm not really surprised at that. We, for some reason or another, because we indulge so much in self-hate, we project that on each other. I don't like myself, so I don't like you. And unfortunately, even though we're in 1993, that's a reality. So that's one of the reasons I think black women, in terms of an organizational mode, would not adhere or promulgate the notions that Jesse Jackson would set forth.
When you're saying that Jesse Jackson was able to organize more white women than
No,
black.
I didn't
No,
mean
that's
that.
not what she said.
I said he responded to them better,
Better.
because they were organized.
Right.
And I think we are the least organized group of people for the time that we've been in this nation.
Yeah.
And if we were to organize to break down to single subject areas, we would be far more successful than leaving our lot up to these large, the NAACP and the Urban League, which are generally jerked around by the liberal left, who has another agenda opposite of ours.
You've gone too far now. You've gone too far. Right ahead, please.
I want to go back to when you were talking about black women not realizing that they're the strongest women. I think many of us do.
You want to tell us who you are here in Cincinnati? I heard you were very important. Tell the national audience who you are.
My name is Minette Cooper, and I am running for the Cincinnati School Board. And I'm very excited about the opportunity to try to work with children. But I was saying, I think that many black women do understand that they are among the best minds. But I also think that by the same token, when we have a lot of things, when we're influenced by a lot of things and have things pushed upon us, we need strength from other people who feel good about themselves and who recognize they have strong minds. We need to network and get together so that we can help each other.
You know, I want to say something about this organization. And first of all, I'd like to congratulate you for the courage to run for any elected office. I think it's wonderful. I think we need more elected females in the office throughout the nation. But, you know, here's something that I have noticed, and it's not something I'm proud of, but something I've noticed. I'm sure you've shared this. We talk about organizing. It is extremely difficult, from my experience, to get a group of women, black women, together to do much of anything. Unfortunately, we get too involved in still the negative stuff, and I hate to even say it, but it is a reality that if you try to mobilize a large group of people to do something, you always end up with a few who end up getting it done. So I think we need to examine ourselves individually and make a commitment.
We're going to try to get some questions in, some quick ones and some quick answers so we can cover some people. Go right ahead, please.
I'd like to make a quick comment to piggyback on yours. It's important that we do organize, and the other piece that you mentioned about individual efforts, it goes back to us saying it takes one to reach one. And I think if each of us, rather than worry about organizing on a large scale, just take it upon ourselves to reach back or to stoop down to a younger sister and let her know what her heritage is and to instill that self-worth and self-value, that can do a lot to counteract all these negative images that we're seeing in popular culture. So, you know, it's great to organize, but we can, you know, step out of the studio and start to go to work immediately.
Let me try something on. So if we did that, then some of the lyrics coming back in the music would be the kind of ideas that you're putting into these new young ladies, wouldn't it?
That's the idea.
Positive image,
exactly.
Lyrics. Yes, come right ahead, sir. I'd like to go right ahead, sir.
Hello, my name is Devon Adams, and this question is to the panel. I read a statistic on black women have the highest rate of drug use during pregnancy in the country. I think over 60% of children, black children born in this country, are to single-parent households, females. And I wanted to ask the panel, how would you solve or list some of these solutions?
Ms. Verner, you take this one.
I think we have to return to God. When you set a standard of social behavior, that you have a standard that is community-wide, then you can expect that people will uphold a standard. Young girls nowadays are told by young boys, you have to have sex with me because this is the only attention you're going to get, and if you don't get this, you're not getting anything. And she gives in because the reality is that it may be true. So we have to indeed put a higher value on human life during this time that human life is being leveled to the ground. We have to put a higher level on human life, and girls need protection despite what feminists tell you. Men protect women and children. Men teach sons how to protect their sisters and mothers and their wives and their daughters. Men need to regain the authority that men are supposed to have in the community.
I want to address that.
Go right ahead, sir.
My name is Earl Wiley, and I'm a private physician here in Cincinnati. I grew up in public housing here, and one of the things that motivated me most in my youth was fear. Fear of ignorance, fear of poverty, fear of violence and drugs and the like. But the thing that I was afraid of most was a single mother that raised me, gave me good principles, good values, good judgment, a good attitude, a good feeling of self-esteem. And the thing that she gave me most was an appreciation for education. Now, I noticed that there are a lot of young women who are in that same situation, who are single mothers raising many kids, sometimes who have been left by their fathers, and they seem to instill in them an appreciation for material things, for wealth, for expensive designer jeans and clothes that the population at large sometimes can't afford. So I'd like one of the panelists to address this deviation from what most of us were raised with to something now that's far beyond most of our means.
Ms. GOSLEE, it seems in your area, briefly, please.
Yeah, it's very troubling to recognize what I see from a historic development as quickly as I can. What happened in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s when there were good, solid families with extended families has virtually, to some degree, and not in all families, just been so diminished it's almost disappeared. I think, unfortunately, many young mothers are too young when they become mothers, and many of them simply do not know. They're not intelligent enough, and I'm not talking about book sense. They don't even have basic common sense if you're 12 to 13 years old having these children.
Right ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm a health care provider for women in this community. And I suppose I hear from women more than probably anybody else in this community some of the plights and problems that they're having. I think the theme that I get from the three of you is that we're all in this together, both male and female, from a black perspective. I guess my question to any one of you is, what do you want, number one? What do you expect, number two, of us as black males to support you in your quest for whatever we're trying to get to? And just like some comment on that, please.
Ms. Briscoe, let's hear from you.
First, I want to address the other question that you wouldn't let me address. The fellow that was asking about statistics, I think you should look where the statistics came from first and who put it out, and then what area they took them in. So I think you should be aware that statistic, anybody can do a statistic. We can do a statistic right here in this room. So I would tell you to look at the source and go search it out for yourself.
Let's go back to the most immediate question. Ms. Verner, would you answer this gentleman's question about the role of black men and black women?
Mm-hmm. I would like to see black men and black women commit to marriage. You see, extended families were based on the grandparents who you knew were never going to break up, who were going to be there. They were like bedrock. Mm-hmm. They were always there for you. No matter how grown their children got, they were always back in the house. This is the way my grandparents were. Mm-hmm. And it was a kind of
Where
security.
Where do you come from, Ms.
I come from Chicago, but my family's from Mississippi. And it was a kind of security that you know that the people in your family are going to stay together, that nothing, money, nor anything else can give you. We need to commit to loving one another and staying married, give up popular culture, sensuality, eroticism, pornography, and stroking our egos. You know, I remember when I was a young child, I used to see black men in overalls, and they used to fix things. They used to call the lady next door Miss So-and-so. They used to stop to help people when their car broke down. They were the people who were in that brown suit on Sunday at church, and they had 10 children trailing behind them, and they were all clean and neat. They knew how to sit down. They were polite, and they did not cause any trouble in the neighborhood.
Okay, let me get to a question. Right ahead, sir.
First of all, in my life, I see women as second to God. So I'm a young black man, and I see brothers out in the hood who disrespect women altogether all the way. So I want to ask you ladies that if there's any way, can you tell me how I can go about to get these brothers to respect women a lot more?
Well, I'd like to commend you, first of all, for having that view. I think that's very healthy. I think we can all make an individual commitment and start with your family, your nephews, and the men that are around you and spread it throughout the community.
Thank you. My name is Stacy Smith, and I'm president and owner of Certified Medical Affiliates. I'd like to say that, and I know that we're living in hard times now. There's a lot of things that's happening in our world today, but things really are changing for us, especially for the women. I've been in business now for almost 4 years. I'm a medical provider. And I know very many people may not know about me, but we are out here, and I'm now socializing, and that's what we have to do. We have to network, we have to get out, we have to meet one another.
We got about a half a minute. Ms. Verner, please respond to this lady.
You know, you're the kind of woman that is the kind of, there are millions of you out there. We simply don't know about you, but we do need to network, and we need to organize. And, you know, I'm happy to meet you.
And I'm sorry, but I need to call time. Thank you very much. Thank you.